In this video, we will be using the angle, sum, and difference formulas to evaluate trig functions when we are given basically a quadrant and one trig value. Now, when I talk about these sum and difference formulas or identities, I'm talking about these. Okay, and here's the one for tangent. Now, when they tell us that angle U is between pi over 2 and pi, they're basically telling us that we are in the second quadrant. So you want to go ahead and draw yourself a diagram into the second quadrant. So that's going to look like this. All right, here we are in the second quadrant. And let's go ahead and label this as angle U. Now, they gave us this one trig value. The sine of U is 7 over 18. We know that sine is the y value over the r value in terms of x, y, and r. So that means this side of this triangle would be 7, and the hypotenuse here is going to be 18. We're going to need to figure out what the x value is. And be careful, whatever it turns out to be, make sure you decide that it's negative because it's going to the left. So we'll need to do Pythagorean Theorem. So this is going to be 7 squared plus x squared is equal to 18 squared. And so we will just solve the Pythagorean Theorem. So this would be 49 plus x squared is equal to 18 squared. So that's 324. Minus 49. So we have x squared is equal to, what was that, 275. All right, so that means x is going to equal to the square root of 275. Okay, 275 is definitely divisible by 25. Okay, so that means this is the same thing as the square root of 25 times the square root of 11. So that means we've got 5 radical 11. So that means this is negative 5 radical 11. Okay, now we need to do the same thing with angle T. So they're telling us that angle T is between pi and 3 pi over 2. They're just telling us that angle T is in quadrant 3. All right, so let's go ahead and draw ourselves a picture in quadrant 3. I know this says no calculator, and I'm kind of using a calculator, but we will be sure to only use a 4-function calculator. We won't use any of the fancy skills of the TI-30 XS multi-view. So angle T is in the third quadrant, so we will definitely go ahead and draw a little sketch in the third quadrant. So that's going to be like this right here. Okay, so here's my angle stretching into the third quadrant. Okay, we were given the tangent of angle T, and we know tangent to be y over x. So that means this is going to be some kind of a 2, and this is going to be some kind of a 5, all right, because it's y and x. However, because this is going downward, this must be a negative 2, and this is to the left, so this must actually be a negative 5. So keep that in mind. So this was really, must have been a negative 2 and a negative 5. Okay, now we're going to need to find the r value using the Pythagorean theorem. So r squared is equal to negative 2 squared plus negative 5 squared. So r squared is equal to 4 plus 25. R squared is equal to 29. So r is equal to the square root of 29. And the r value is always going to be positive. So now we have enough information to start doing these problems. The cosine of u plus t. The cosine sum formula goes cosine cosine minus sine sine. So I'm going to have cosine u cosine t minus sine u sine t. Okay, now looking at my little picture, the cosine of u is negative 5 radical 11 over 18. Negative 5 radical 11 over 18. Okay, it's x over r. Now the cosine of t, that's negative 5 over radical 29. And then we have minus, and okay, sine of u, so that's 7 over 18. And sine of t, so that's negative 2 over radical 29. So it's just a matter of simplifying this down. So I notice I have like denominators. So the like denominator is 18 radical 29. A negative times a negative is a positive. So I'm going to have positive 25 radical 11 from these. Okay, and here I have minus a negative, so this will also be a positive. And 7 times 2 is 14. So this should be the answer to number 66. All right, next we're supposed to find the tangent of t minus u. So we will have to use the tangent formula. All right, so the tangent goes tangent minus tangent over 1 plus tangent tangent. So I'm going to do tangent t minus tangent u over 1 plus tangent t tangent u. Okay, so tangent of t, that's going to be negative 2 over negative 5, which will immediately just become 2 over 5. Okay, minus, and then tangent of u is 7 over negative 5 radical 11, y over x. Okay, now in the denominator I have 1 plus, okay, in tangent of t we already saw that that was 2/5. And tangent of u we already saw that that was 7 over negative 5 radical 11. So minus a negative is a positive, so this is going to wind up being addition. I am going to need like denominators for my numerator. So I already have a 5. I'm going to need radical 11. So I'm going to do radical 11 over radical 11. Okay. So down here, you know what, I guess I'm going to have to show one more step. So I have my like denominators. So in the numerator, I can go ahead and write 2 radical 11 plus 7 over 5 radical 11. All right, that's the numerator. Now in the denominator, looking at this part, I have 14 over negative 25 radical 11. Now over here I have this 1. I like the number 1 because I can write 1 as 2 over 2 or 3 over 3 or radical 5 over radical 5, whatever I want. So I see that my denominator is 25 radical 11. So I'm going to write the number 1 as 25 radical 11 over 25 radical 11. Okay? See how I have plus and then this is a negative? Let's just go ahead and write that as minus. Okay, so this will just be minus. Okay, I think I'm going to need a new column. So I've got my numerator, 2 radical 11 plus 7 over 5 radical 11. Notice that you cannot cancel out these radical 11s because of the addition. Now in the denominator, I have 25 radical 11 minus 14 over 25 radical 11. So it's time to multiply by the reciprocal. So I will have 2 radical 11 plus 7 over 5 radical 11. Okay, that's the numerator, times, now I'm going to do the reciprocal of this. So that'll be 25 radical 11 over 25 radical 11 minus 14. Now, these radical 11s will cancel each other out. I have one high and one low, and this is connected by multiplication. In addition to that, 5 goes into 25 5 times. So I will have a 5 left in the numerator. Okay, so what I have now is 5 times 2 radical 11 plus 7 over 25 radical 11 minus 14. All right, this 5 in the front is this red 5 right here. Okay, so all I'm really going to do is distribute this 5, and that should be my final answer. So the final answer is going to be 10 radical 11 plus 35 over 25 radical 11 minus 14. All right, now that was an ugly, ugly problem. Let's do one more. This time they're asking us for cosecant. We know that cosecant is the reciprocal of the sine function, so our strategy will be first go ahead and find the sine of this expression, and then whatever we get, we'll just do the reciprocal. So let's start by doing the sine of u minus t. Now the formula for sine of something minus something, it goes sine cosine minus cosine sine. So this will be sine u cosine t minus cosine u sine t. Okay, so what is the sine of u? So the sine is going to be 7 over 18. Okay, now the cosine of t, that's negative 5 over radical 29. okay, minus the cosine of u. So that's negative 5 radical 11 over 18. And then times sine t. So that's going to be negative 2 over radical 29. So it's just a matter of simplifying all this. Notice here we have a negative times negative, so these are going to turn to positives, so don't worry about those. So now let's just start the simplification process. So this will be negative 35 over 18 radical 29 minus, right, because that minus is still there. And this numerator is going to make 10 radical 11 over 18 radical 29. So luckily we already have like denominators, so we can go ahead and put these together as negative 35 minus 10 radical 11 over 18 radical 29. Now I almost forgot that this is not the final answer. Or, if I'm being honest, I did forget, and I had to come back and edit this video to fix the mistake that I just made. This is not the final answer because the original problem asked for cosecant. And what I have right now is the sine of u minus t. All right, that's what we've been doing this whole time. If I want to convert this over to the cosecant of u minus t, I'm going to have to do the reciprocal. So that's going to be 18 radical 29 over negative 35 minus 10 radical 11. So this is the value of the cosecant. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. Go ahead and click here in the red apple to watch the next video. Click in the green apple to subscribe, or click the yellow apple for the full playlist.